Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of The Barefoot Genealogist. It is time for our monthly edition of What's New at Ancestry. This is for May 2016. As always, we're going to just start out with some of the upcoming events. Of course, this week is the National Genealogical Society's annual conference. It is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida this year. The web address is conference.ngsgenealogy.org. Now, the conference starts today, actually, on the 3rd, with a Librarian's Day, and then it goes the 4th through the 7th. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the full run of the conference. So if you can get to Fort Lauderdale, I would encourage you to do so any time over the course of the next several days. But if you can't get to Fort Lauderdale, there is a really great and economical alternative. The conference will be streaming several of its classes online. Ancestry has a blog that we posted about that. You can attend the conference virtually and has information about how to sign up for the streaming classes. However, you do need to be aware that today, May 3rd, is the deadline to sign up for those streaming classes. Now, if you're not able to sign up for the streaming classes, or if the classes, the tracks that they've chosen to stream are not of interest to you, you can purchase audio recordings after the conference, after the 7th, in order to catch some of the classes that you might have been interested in that weren't streaming, or whatever the case may be. So go ahead and check out the Ancestry blog. That's blogs.ancestry.com, and be sure to check out Linda's post about attending the conference virtually if you'd like more information about that. Now, the other upcoming big conferences are the Southern California Genealogical Society's Jamboree is the first weekend in June in Burbank. If you want to check that out, I will be attending that event. They do a full DNA day on the Thursday of conference weekend. And then that particular conference runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday there in Burbank. Again, you can come for one day, you can come for all the days, and they will be streaming some classes as well. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. The International Association of Jewish Genealogical Societies is holding their annual conference in Seattle, Washington this year. That will be the second full week of August. And then the Federation of Genealogical Societies is holding their annual conference this year. It will be Labor Day weekend in Springfield, Illinois. And the registration for that particular conference just opened up this past week. So if you are interested, you might want to check out their website and take a look at the classes and things available for that conference. Again, that registration for that event just opened up this past week. So Ancestry will be attending each of these events. We'll have a booth in the exhibit hall. We have several of our genealogists and other employees from various areas of the company who will be doing presentations, both in the classes, the tracks of classes, as well as in the Ancestry booth throughout the event. So please feel free to come by and say hello. We'd love to meet you. There are other conferences and events, genealogical events that are going on all the time, put on by local and state and regional genealogical societies. I would encourage you to just do some searching into the societies in your area and see what they have to offer if traveling to one of these areas is not feasible for you. Okay, let's talk next about some of the new things that have come out on the site over the last month. We made 2 blog posts this past month about some changes that we've made. One is an enhancement to the media uploader. Basically, in the new Ancestry experience, we have made some changes to the media upload that allow you to upload images faster. So you can drag from anywhere on your computer into your media uploader instead of having to click through choosing files. You can also paste into the media file, and that works really great. It's just a really quick, easy way to get images uploaded. Again, you can read more about that on the Ancestry blog. That post came out on April 21st. Next up, we made some enhancements to the life story. So I know some of you prefer to work in the facts page on Ancestry, and that's this facts view. So here's my grandfather's page, his profile page in my tree. And the facts view is where you have facts, and then the source citations, and then the family members listed, all in just one really easy, convenient view. As a researcher, I prefer to work in this view. However, I know a lot of our researchers and family historians like to work in the life story view, a little bit more narrative, a little bit less technical, more historical based. And so we've added the ability for you to add facts or events directly to the timeline from the life story view. So it used to be you'd have to switch over to facts view in order to add a particular event from the person's life and then make a notation about whether or not you wanted that specific event to show up over in life story. Now you can add those directly from the life story. So that's kind of exciting. Another post we put out this month is about some things that are coming, just to let you know. So currently, Ancestry has more than 1.5 million people who have taken the Ancestry DNA test. But as we learn more, as we refine and expand the science behind that DNA matching, we're able to make some improvements in some of the algorithms that compare your DNA to the other 1.5 million people who've taken the DNA test. And we're able to deliver more precise predictions about who you're related to in that pool of people and how closely you're related to them. So we've been running that update in the background and are just letting you know that it is coming. Now, for those of you who have just taken the DNA test and are waiting for your results, just be aware that we have always stated that the standard time for getting those tests processed is about 6 to 8 weeks. Now, sometimes we have been able to do that faster, but currently and always we've stated 6 to 8 weeks from the time Ancestry receives your test until you receive your results back. If this update is going to cause any of you a specific delay in receiving test results back, we will let you know. And once the update is done and we are going to push it out to the website and make it available to all of you, those of you who've taken the test will be notified of that. We will make a blog post about it. We will have some FAQs available about it. So lots of stuff that we're making available just so that you understand what's happening. But we did want to let you know that that is still in process and coming soon. And then another, not a change to the website, but something that a lot of you might not be aware of that I just wanted to make you aware of. Ancestry has a community indexing program. It's called the World Archives Project. And several years ago, we were able to negotiate with the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum for access to their records so that we could index those records through our community. We created this program called the World Memory Project. It launched about 5 years ago. And just this past month, we crossed the 1 millionth record that has been made available. Now, important to note that anything that's indexed by the World Memory Project community is free on Ancestry. So those records are freely available for anyone to search at any time, and we hope that you will take advantage of those records. One of the other things to note about any of the databases created as part of the World Memory Project is that the indexes are free, but the images themselves are not online. And that was a decision that we came to with the Holocaust Memorial Museum because of the sensitivity of some of those records. However, on every index page is a link where if you find someone in our index that is a part of your family tree, you can request the original records from the museum. And I would strongly encourage you to take advantage of that particular service. Now, if you want to get involved in helping to index these records, because there are millions more that need to be indexed, if you just go to help on Ancestry.com. Help is not just about getting help, it's also about giving some assistance. And so there under our Ancestry community, you're going to find a link to the World Archives Project. And that's where you can go to learn more about how to participate and exactly what that entails. But I would love to see even more of those records come online more quickly. The generation that experienced the Holocaust, many of them are getting to an age where they're no longer with us, and there are still many families who have never reconnected with family members that they thought perished in the Holocaust that may not have, or they may not know what happened to family members, and these records provide a lot of those answers. So if you have any time at all to give, I would strongly encourage you to participate in that World Archives project. And as I said, any records that are indexed by that community are then made available for free as part of our free database collections on Ancestry. So those are the site changes or enhancements or news from around Ancestry for this past month. Let's wrap it up by talking about new content, some of these new records. This past month, Ancestry put more than 10 million new records online, and those records come from 7 different countries. If you have never joined us for a What's New episode before, the easiest way to keep track of what's being added on Ancestry is to go to the card catalog. It's here under the search menu. Once you get to the card catalog, you can then sort that list of 32,000 plus databases by date added, and the new stuff gets dropped in at the top of the list. And so you can see we've got some prison records from Arizona and some military lists from Bremen, Germany, and some poorhouse admissions from Pennsylvania, probate index from a particular county in Texas. Lots of really great little databases. I would like to talk about a few specific databases this month. First up is the Surrey, England electoral registers and the Surrey, England tax collection books. Now together these two databases contain more than 4 million records. And here's why I think records like this are important. And whether your family is from Surrey, England or not, you might want to spend some time with these records just so that you get familiar with what you can find in them. And then go to the places where your ancestors were from, look at their local archives, look online in the card catalog at Ancestry, see if the records of a similar type exist in the areas where your family members may have lived. Now, one of the reasons this is important for England, these electoral registers, is because England has a 100-year privacy law on census records. So here in the United States, we have a 72-year privacy law on censuses. In Canada, it's a 90-year privacy law. And in Australia, they actually have a 100% privacy law, which just basically means after they tabulate the information from the census, it is destroyed. And so electoral registers become a type of what we call a census substitute. Basically, anybody who is registered to vote, it will list, information about them and where they're registered to vote. So it allows you to track people through time. It also gives you some clues to their age. If you look at the specific time period and what the voting age was, then you know when somebody is not on an electoral register, not on an electoral register, not on an electoral register, and then all of a sudden they show up. That's a good indicator that they have turned an age to be able to now legally vote. These particular records go from 1931 to 1970. And so, like I said, because of that census privacy law, these cover a time period where there's not a lot of contemporary records publicly available. So we're really thrilled to be able to have these. Now, on the other end of the time spectrum, we have these tax collection books. England started keeping track of birth, marriage, and death records at a government level in 1837, and it took a while for there to be full compliance to that. And so what that means is that prior to 1837, most of the records that we use are church records. So this is a unique opportunity to use a government record, in this case tax collection books, to look for individuals. These start in 1783, they go through 1914. And it's always interesting to me, the census taker may miss someone, but the tax man never does. And so it's, again, an easy way to track people through times and places based on what it was that they were being taxed on, based on the ages of the people who could be taxed. You start to look for patterns. Tax rolls, electoral rolls, all of those are great resources, even if you do have census records available, for distinguishing between people of the same name who might be entirely different individuals. So these are great records to use to augment the research and the evidence that you have that you might be dealing with 2 or 3 men of the same name, and how, figuring out how to sort them out. So pay attention to those electoral registers, tax collection books, wherever they may be found in whatever historical location you're doing research in whatever time period, because those can be really valuable records. Now, next up are UK registers of birth, marriage, and death. And I didn't delineate these specifically out into the several databases, and here's why. If you look here at my screen, and I'll make it just a smidge bigger for you, you'll see we've got UK registers of births, marriages, and deaths from British consulates. These start in 1810 and go through 1968. So here's what happens is, if you are a British citizen, but you are born outside of Britain, then traditionally that birth should have been reported, or that marriage or death should have been reported to the consulate in whatever country you were born, married, or died in. And so this collection contains records from over 300 various registers from the UK Foreign Office of births, marriages, and deaths that were reported to British consulates outside of Great Britain. So really great resource for people who might have been born into military families or merchant families, or any kind of situation, missionary families, where they were living somewhere else at the time of some of those vital events in life. Now, similarly, there is a collection here of British Army and Navy birth, marriage, and death records. These run from 1730 to 1960. So if someone was in the armed forces, again, outside of the country, the birth would have been reported if they had died while in England or in the UK, then that birth, marriage, or death would have been reported locally. But these are for people who were serving in the military and were outside of the country at the time. And this particular collection has almost 500,000 records in it. So it runs for a couple hundred years there, 230 years, and covers a big wide range of time, and surprisingly has almost 500,000 records in it. And then finally here, this UK register of births, marriages, and deaths at sea from 1844 to 1890. So it's a little bit smaller of a time period. We're looking at less than 50 years worth of records here. But again, if you were part of a merchant family and you were actually at sea, or if you were working on a ship or traveling somewhere, actually at sea at the time of the birth of a child or a marriage or a death, that would be recorded in one of these registers. And even though this register only covers less than 50 years and seems like a fairly odd situation to have one of those vital events occur at sea, it is almost, it's 346,000 records in this singular collection. So those are just some unique new records that have come online. Oftentimes, again, get familiar with the kinds of records that exist. Even if your family wasn't British, to know that these kinds of records were kept in Britain might spur you to look and see, well, were these kinds of records kept for Canadians or for Americans or for Australians or for Germans or French? Where else could I find something similar? If you've been looking for a record in a specific location and it's not shown up, it could be because the event occurred somewhere else, and here are some different scenarios where that could happen. So I found that kind of fascinating and have enjoyed looking through those records as I prepared this presentation. Another collection that we put online this month is the Ireland Calendar of Wills from 1858 to 1920. Now, these records have been available online for a little while. They are on a different website. So anytime Ancestry has just indexed records from another site and made them available for searching through Ancestry, you're going to see the word web as part of the title, the first part of the title of that database. That's really important to know because basically what Ancestry's done is just made these records searchable through Ancestry. It's made them so that they can be attached as a source citation directly into your tree. But the records themselves, the database itself, is actually hosted elsewhere. And so if you click through to view a record or to view more information about it, almost always these will take you to another website, a third-party website, in order to view those records. But this collection is particularly important. Calendars of wills are not full transcriptions of wills. They're not copies of the original wills. They're basically abstracts. So somebody has taken, a collection, in this case, of wills from 1858 through 1920, and made abstracts of those wills that list some basic information. In this case, there are more than 500,000 of them, and so that's kind of exciting to have those records available. Anybody who's tried to do Irish research knows that there has been a lot of record destruction in Ireland over time because of various reasons, and so anytime we get records out of Ireland or for Irish researchers, that's always a thrilling thing. And I'm diving into Irish research more and more lately, so I'm pretty excited about that. Another record collection that we put online this month is Sweden Emigrants from 1783 to 1991. So big time period there, more than 200 years of time covered, all the way back to the late 1700s when there were some big groups of Swedish emigrants, and going all the way through 1991, which is fantastic because oftentimes we're not able to get more recent records because of various privacy laws and whatnot. Now, emigrants are different than immigrants, okay? Immigrants with an I, coming into a country. Emigrants with an E are people who are leaving a country. So in this case, this particular set of records, these Sweden emigrants, registered in church books. There are 1.4 million of them over that time period. And basically what it is as somebody was leaving a town or a congregation in Sweden, a notation would be made in the church books about where they were going to. So more than 2,300 parishes across Sweden are included in this particular database, and it's estimated that this single database includes more than 75% of all the immigrants that left Sweden. So you get these notations about where they are going to. Now, if you are doing research ancestrally, meaning you're going from yourself back through your tree, you will know, hopefully, where they were in the, U.S. or in Canada or England or wherever it was that they ended up. You will have that information. And if you know the town they came from in England or from in Sweden, you can look through these immigrant books. You can browse them or you can search them to find out, what other people, who else left with them, who else immigrated with them. If you are doing descendancy research, so if you're tracing families from a common ancestor down through time, these books become, they're just as valuable either direction, but they become this huge resource for tracking where people left and went to because of the notations in these books. So really great resource. Again, just something to think about, right? Even if your family's not from Sweden, what other countries kept track of who was leaving or what other types of records. Now in the US, for example, we have no outbound passenger lists because apparently we don't care who leaves. I don't know what that means, but Great Britain does have outward passenger lists. They have records for people who are coming into the country. They also have records for people who are leaving the country. And so to know that there are different places and time that kept track of who was leaving the country is kind of an interesting resource to consider. And then there were just so many German databases this month that I could not even list them all, and I couldn't even pick which ones I wanted to highlight, but we have released a lot of German records. One of the things that you'll notice as you look through these birth, marriage, and death records is that they are, first of all, in German. Okay, that's important to note, but use a little Google Translate and you'd be surprised what you can figure out on a record, even in a language you don't speak. But these records are all specific to a specific location in Germany. So as you look through some of these records, you'll find, sometimes the records are for an entire country, Sweden, Australia, England, whatever the case may be. But very often, especially as we dive further into German records and Irish records and French records, one of the things that you're going to discover in this research process is that in order to be successful in your research into those ancestors, you need to know where in those countries they came from, because those records are often provided to Ancestry from our various archives and repositories that we negotiate with as singular databases based on a specific location. So you can still do a global search. Like if I was searching for a marriage record in Germany, I could still come up here to search, and I could go to birth, marriage, and death, and I could search all the marriage records on Ancestry, and then, narrow it down using my filters and my search fields to a country, Germany, to a specific time period, maybe, 1884, and then see what comes up. But you're going to be more successful if you make sure that you mine all of the records you can in the US before you jump back into other countries, and know where in that country they came from, because that'll tell you if the record that you're looking for even exists online. And then it's just, once you figure that out, then it's just easier to just go directly to that specific database and do a search in that database with limited information in your search fields, so that you can see what exists for a particular surname or a particular year. I could come in here, for example, and I could say, show me everyone who was married in 1884, give or take a couple years in this particular database. I get 1,272 search results. Well, really, I'm interested in everybody who was married in this time and place, who had the first name of Bertha. And now I have 97 search results, because we know, or at least if you've done this for any amount of time, you know that the single piece of information on any record that most often gets miswritten, misspelled, mistranscribed, misindexed, all of these various points along the process, the single piece of information that gets most often incorrectly entered is the name. And so when you can find a specific database to search, and search it without a name or search it with some more limited information, you're going to be a lot more successful in finding what it is that you're looking for in your family tree. And with that note, that is all I have prepared for you today. You can join me again next month for what's new at Ancestry. And in the meantime, we will have a couple of videos throughout the month, almost always posted to YouTube on Tuesday mornings, so that you can keep up with genealogy, methodology information, things that I share over the course of the month that have to do with helping you further your genealogy research. Typically, I encourage you to come over to the Ancestry Facebook event page, and we chat there and I answer questions. But as you are watching this video, I am actually on an airplane on my way to Florida for the National Genealogy Society's annual conference. So unfortunately, I will not be available for a live Q&A today. But if you do have questions about any of the things that I have covered today, please feel free to leave a comment on the YouTube video. I will check those once I land and get checked into my hotel and answer those as appropriate. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.